All right, it's Thursday night. It's February 16th, 2023. That means it's time to talk Clemson baseball with my fellow compadres here, Clemson baseball lovers. At your top left, Jason Priester, allclemsontigers.com. Jason's about ready to hit the road to Clemson as soon as this show finishes. How's it going, JP?
It's going pretty good. How about you fellas?
Doing really well. Doing really well. We got Clemson baseball tomorrow. Hopefully, if the weather holds up. Now, I heard a rumor, Jason, that every time you drive to Clemson, it rains. It looks like it's going to be true tomorrow too.
I have got a wedding this weekend, so I am only allowed to go to opening day. So we got to hold that rain off, man.
Hold the rain till Saturday is what I'm hearing from JP. Casey the Beef Cregan. I know you had a busy day today, Beef. How's things?
Things are great, man. I got this new hat. I finally found a hat that's too big for my big head, which is one I got. But I'm excited for tomorrow and for JP's sake. I think for all of our sakes, but mostly those folks that are planning on being there. I hope it doesn't rain.
So what you're saying is you got one of those big hats. What's it called? I don't know. You know, one of those hats where it's like
they didn't seem to take off. I don't think
for a regular guy, it looked like one of those big hats. But for me and you, because I'm in that club too with the Big Head Club, it fits normally. All right, the Tigers open against Binghamton. Case, you have to tell me if that's how you say it. It's Binghamton, right, Case?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Binghamton, Friday, 4 o'clock, the one JP will be at if the weather holds. Saturday at 2, Sunday at noon, and then they play Charlotte on Tuesday at 4. As I mentioned, the weather looks kind of iffy, but, they played through it. And, heck, Bakich and some of those transfers are used to playing in 45 degrees and rain, so they should feel right at home. Now, today, Clemson announced Ryan Ammons, Riley Bertram, Jackson Lindley, and Blake Wright are your captains. And JP, I'm going to run down what we know or what we think we know. And now we know the starters for this weekend, which are Ryan Ammons on Friday, Austin Gordon on Saturday, and your guy, I like to call him, Jay Dill on Sunday. That's the starting three for this weekend. Last week we kind of talked about some other guys maybe starting, but these are the three they came with: a lefty and two righties. Let's get your thoughts on that starting rotation the first week of the season.
Yeah, these three guys don't surprise me at all. I thought we knew Ammons was going to be one. I thought Dill and Gordon were both potential candidates to be guys in the starting rotation, at least to start the season, especially after what I saw the weekend I was up there at the scrimmages. I mean, Dill and Gordon both pitched fantastic those days. Both started scrimmages, so I kind of had a feeling they were in the mix for starting spots. And it's although Ammons is not an experienced starter, he is an experienced pitcher. I mean, it's three guys with experience. Dill and Gordon doesn't have tons of experience, but they've been out there. They've started games before. They know what to expect. It's not something new. So I kind of like it, at least to start the season. We'll see. I still think Tristan Smith's a guy to keep an eye on and see if he can lock down a spot as we get further into the season. Bakich touched on that a little bit on Tuesday when we talked to him. Maybe one of these guys is just holding a spot temporarily. We'll have to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, I liked what Bakich actually said. He said, could he be, talking about Tristan Smith, could he be a weekend starter? Sure. But they're in a position where he doesn't have to be right now, it sounded like, and maybe later in the season, whether that's a couple of weekends from now against South Carolina or further down the line. I guess we'll find out. But it's kind of refreshing to see that he believes a true freshman could potentially be a weekend starter for this team at some point. And obviously you believe he has the potential to do that from what you've seen. Beef, what's your take on these three?
Yeah, I love these three. I think it's great. It's kind of the three in the back of my mind that are the Bulldogs. You got Ryan Ammons, who was on the back end of that staff last year, who, I mean, it takes a special soul to be a closer, so he's going to have to kind of refine his stuff a little bit so he can go longer. But Bakich even said the other day he doesn't need his guys to go 7-8 innings. He feels like he's very loaded in the staff. Sorry, my kid's here. But I also believe that, like you said, with Tristan Smith, but it's a quick turnaround. Come Tuesday against Charlotte, you may see him right away. I mean, we may see him in Game 4.
That'd be cool.
But
And
I like these three.
Yeah, you mentioned Ryan Adams moving from the back of the bullpen to the Friday starter. 31 innings, 31.2 last season, 1-2 record, 4.55 ERA. And D1 Baseball, for what it's worth, had him as the 119th best starter in college baseball. That's going pretty deep there. JP, now, since Ammons isn't closing, we've heard Willie Weiss's name perhaps to be used in that role. Have you heard anything in detail about that? Is that just a guess, or did Bakich mention anything about the closer's role?
No, nothing about the closer's role was confirmed. I don't even think it was discussed actually, but I fully expect Willie Weiss will be the closer. Hard throwing, left-handed guy. The ball just explodes out of his hand. Really good movement on that thing, man. He was pretty hard to hit. Small sample size, but from what I seen when I was up there that weekend, he was extremely hard to hit. I originally was thinking Ty Olenchuk might be a candidate to start, but the more I thought about it, the more I think maybe we see him as a late innings guy, man. Maybe a setup guy for Weiss. Olenchuk was another guy that was dominant when I was up there, man, touching 95 consistently. Might have been the hardest thrower I seen the couple of days I was up there, but I have said this for 2 or 3 years running now, that I thought this was going to be an extremely deep pitching staff, and I have been proven wrong every time I've said it, so take it with a grain of salt. But I think this is going to be an extremely deep pitching staff. New coaching staff, new pitching coach. I have higher expectations now, and I think we're finally going to see it.
Well, eventually it's going to be right.
Even the clock's right twice a day.
Yeah, right. And I think everybody's been just as wrong as you have, me, myself included. And I think it's we don't understand why it didn't happen before. Beef, what are you thinking about the closer's role?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Weiss. He's done it before. That was his role at Michigan. I think, especially once you move Ammons to the front end of the rotation, I think Weiss was the obvious choice. But I love JP saying Olenchuk going late because, I mean, part of what my thoughts on him as a freshman and even a little bit last season was that he ran out of gas. I'm not saying he's not getting better and getting more consistent late. But man, oh man, that would be awesome as a setup guy, because just let it loose for 2 innings, right? Let it loose for an inning. That's a great role for him, I think, and he could probably really thrive there. I like that a lot.
Ty Olenchuk, who had his moments.
Still no Barlow mention, though. Still no Barlow mention.
Yeah, but I've not seen Barlow. I've not heard his name mentioned. That might mean something. It might not mean anything, but, we'll see. Maybe he's your Tuesday guy. I don't know. I thought, those first couple of days I was up there, I absolutely noticed that he didn't pitch. But I wasn't really looking for him in the dugout either. But I don't ever remember even seeing him. And I thought, after I thought about it, I thought that was a little odd. I have seen him on one of the videos they put out, though, so.
Okay. So he's not in the witness protection program. He may be in the Eric Bakich protection program, but not the witness protection program. One thing Eric Bakich did mention in the video, JP, was that Will Taylor is not 100%. Some days he is, some days he's not. And similarly, the same thing for Cooper Engel. He said he probably is not going to be able to catch every game, at least not earlier in the season. Luckily, they've got freshman Jacob Jarrell who can catch, that we talked a little bit about last week. How do you see that role playing out early in the season?
Yeah, I could definitely see Cooper Engel, filling that DH spot some, especially early on, because coming back from that injury. And I think Package, you can listen to the way he's talked about Jacob Gerald the couple of times he's talked about him. Sounds like he already has confidence in him. He looks the part. He looks like he's got a strong arm from what I could tell. Again, these are small sample sizes that I saw. They were playing short scrimmages, so it's not, a huge – I haven't seen him over a long stretch of games or anything, but he looked like he had a strong arm, could throw guys out. Not sure about his bat, but, we're talking about a guy that's going to be in a reserve role most of the year probably, but I could definitely see him playing some to start the season. But when I was up there, Engel looked like a guy that he must have been 100% the days I was there because he was catching, he was throwing at the second, he was doing all the stuff. He was drilling the ball like we saw him last year. He hit a couple of home runs. One of them, he led the scrimmage off with one of the scrimmages off with a home run. He looked like his same old self to me, but I'm sure they're going to take it easy with him starting the season.
Yeah, Eric Beckett said, I think he said in that video that he had 8 guys he was comfortable with in the outfield. I mean 8 outfielders. That's just crazy deep. So if Taylor's unable to go early, sounds like he's got options. Beef, what's your take?
Yeah, I got kind of shell shock with that because, me in the Leggett days, you knew who he was throwing out there every day. And yeah, 1 off, 2 off, maybe every third day you may have a new lineup, but you knew what you were getting every single day that you went to the ballpark. He said he's got 8 guys and everyone needs equal reps or everyone needs reps. So we're going to see different lineups. I just like a little bit of synergy throughout 1 through 9. At least you know who's going to be there. Obviously, you can tinker with who's going where in the lineup, but as far as in the field, you know who's going to be out there. I love the depth. I love the depth, but I also like consistency too. And I also understand it's going to take a few weeks before we can get that consistency and the cream rises to the top kind of thing.
No doubt. Anthony Weeks checked in and said, great show, guys. Tuned in on the way home. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for the artwork that you passed along to Beef. Kevron checks in, said, good evening. Will your Clemson baseball team be better than last year's? It's my joke. It's going to be my joke to the end of the season. They could be 14-42 or 42-14. I really don't have a feel for it, but same thing last year. I didn't think they're going to start out 14-0. And once they did, I didn't think they were going to end up 35-23 and missing the tournament. So I don't know. JP, what do you think? Better than last year or not?
Better than last year. I think this is a regional team.
All right. Beef?
I think they're definitely better regardless of the outcome of the record at the end of the year. I just think I loved Monty Lee. I was a big proponent of Monty. I just think that it just feels, of all the interviews that I've watched, they're more cohesive. They're more of a group. It really feels like they're comfortable in their own skin. Caden Grice's interview the other day was like a breath of fresh air. It just feels like he's now going to go out and play loose, and it just feels better. So I'm not sure that the record at the end of the year is going to be indicative of the fact that this team, I believe, is going to be way better than last year.
There is a level of confidence around this team that I get a feel that I sense that I have not sensed in the last 2-3 years or whatever, going back to the COVID year. There's just a different vibe in there. It's different than it was last year and the year before last. And it goes back to what you just touched on, Casey. I think the camaraderie on this team is different, even though it's a lot of the same guys. I think the philosophy that Eric Bakich has brought, and he's kind of tweaked some of the things culture-wise. He's got them out in the community. Sounds like they didn't do a whole lot of that since COVID, and this is something new for all of them, and it's kind of brought them closer together. I think they are more of a team than they have been in the past season, the past 2 seasons or whatever, and I think that is going to translate into more success on the field.
Well, they say the team's personality – comes down from the coach. And I love Monty Lee also. I thought he was the right fit at the time. It didn't work out. But just the way Bakich comes across on those videos that I've seen, they haven't played a game yet. Like I also like to say, there's a 0 in the loss column, right? I may feel different after Sunday. Who knows? But right now, he seems very confident, very sure of himself. He's not afraid to say what the goal is, right? What the goal that the three of us want and all Clemson fans want. He's not afraid to say the quiet part out loud, and that is quite refreshing from my point of view. Another freshman's name we've heard thrown around a lot, JP, is Cam Canarella. Where do you see him playing early in the season?
That's a good question. If you're having to, especially if you're having to use Cooper Ringo as your DH, it's kind of taking a spot in the lineup away from somebody else. When I was up there, I think we touched on it last week. I think he exclusively played third at the scrimmages I was at, him and Blake Wright. But I think you can plug him in at third. You can plug him in at second. I think you can move him all around. And I think he is a versatile guy. And listening to some of the comments from Eric Backett and some of the other players, he has been a consistent bat in that lineup in the preseason. So I think we're probably going to see he's going to get some opportunities somewhere early, I would believe.
Yeah, and I heard from one of his friends at school, one of these youngsters, that said that he's been told he's going to start in either center field or right field. Who knows what that means? Once he said center field, I said that like the next day the Will Taylor information came out. That kind of threw me for a loop, but I could see him in right field maybe.
I'll say this too: the days I was up there were also must have been days that Will Taylor was 100%. He was out there making diving catches in center field. He was getting out the batter's box as fast as I've ever seen him. He's wearing no brace, so if there's anybody but Will Taylor in center field, I will be surprised. But I could definitely, he's Canarella's a versatile guy. He can play infield, outfield. I just happen to see him in the infield, so my brain goes there. I could definitely see him playing the outfield too, because like Coach Backett said, there are up to 8 guys that he can plug in out there, and I would definitely count Canarella as one.
We're going to call him 100% Jason Priester.
No more sunglasses. Just throw up that 100.
Just throw up the 100.
Certainly looked at those days I was there. Now, what he looked like after I left, I don't know, man. I'm telling you, there was a shallow fly ball hit the center field in one of those scrimmages, and he was on it in an instant. And he made a spectacular highlight reel diving catch. So, it was impressive.
Okay, Andrew Watts chimes in and says, sorry if I missed it, but he'd love to hear your thoughts on the opening day rotation. Okay, let me summarize. Good. We're looking forward to it. We think they're going to be good. Actually, Andrew, that was the first thing we said. JP, give him the 30-second, your take on those guys in about 30 seconds. It's at the front it'll be at the front of the video, Andrew. You can rewatch.
I like this rotation, especially to start the season. Experienced guys. You got a lefty, 2 righties. All 3 of them, throw hard. And from the, again, small sample sizes. When I was up there watching the scrimmages, all 3 of these guys were pounding the strike zone. Jay Deal was fantastic. His stuff had a lot of movement. His fastball was in the low. I can't remember if it was the low to mid 90s, but it was one or the other. Same thing with Austin Gordon, and we all know what Ryan Ammons has got.
Casey, your take?
Yeah, I just think they're 3 Bulldogs. I think you put your 3 Bulldogs at the opening weekend and against a team that should be on paper overmatched. Although it is they're projected to win their conference this year. But I like the way that Backett laid it out.
Okay, JP, before Casey gives us a preview of Binghamton and a little bit on Charlotte, is there anything else that I haven't talked about that maybe you've captured in one of your interviews or through your contacts? Just curious if there's something I've missed that I haven't hit on.
I'll just say this, he got asked about – Eric Backus got asked about small ball the other day, and y'all probably heard it. And we talked last week about how much they were working on bunting, and I've heard a couple of fans talking about how Clemson's going to go back to small ball now that this is, Backett is a Jack Leggett disciple. And I don't expect Clemson's going back to small ball. I'll just say that I would look for a happy medium. It's not going to be boom or bust, but I think he's going to try to find ways to take advantage of the speed in that lineup, manufacture some runs, and not sit on the bases and just wait on the long balls.
Okay, Andrew chimes in and said he was able to coach against Will Taylor 2 years ago when he was at Dutch Fork. He's unbelievable on the diamond when he's fully healthy. I think that's what JP was saying. Casey, anything else that we need to hit on before you tell us about Binghamton for a minute or two?
No, and I think we keep hearing that Backus was a Leggett disciple, and he was. That was his first year, but I liken him more to a Tim Corbin disciple. So he was with Corbin longer than he was with Jack. Jack gave him his first opportunity. Jack's in the program, back in the program now, but don't let that kind of narrative grow. He's a Tim Corbin disciple, who is a Jack Leggett disciple. So I guess we could play that.
So he's the grandson and not the son.
That's right. That's right.
Something like a third cousin.
And I love how Corbin runs the bases. It's tremendous.
Aggressive. I like it.
1 through 9 too. He didn't care.
I always like to say you can be aggressive without being foolish. And I realize sometimes when you're aggressive, you're going to end up looking foolish. But we saw some circuses running the bases under Monty Lee, and I don't mean circuses in a good way. We saw a circus in a t-ball way at times of Monty Lee. All right, Beef, it's your time to shine, buddy.
What do you want to know?
Tell us all about Binghamton.
Well, Binghamton comes in. They are the returning America East Conference tournament champions from last year, although they did end the season 22-30. They were uno dos adios in the Stanford Regional.
Crushed.
But they did make the regional. They're really just looking for a shortstop, everyday shortstop and right fielder off of last year's team. Whether or not that's a good thing at 22-30, I'm not sure. They're really led offensively by their catcher, Evan Sullivan. He went 365, 7 home runs, 42 RBIs. They do run a little bit, especially at the top of the lineup. They have 2 outfielders, Kevin Tully, Logan Haskell, who had 7 and 9 stolen bases, respectively. On the mound, they return everybody of their weekend from last year. I know it was announced today that they're actually going with Thomas Babalis, who's a lefty, on Friday night. He was 4-7 last year, 6.04 ERA. Saturday, they're going with a junior, Gabe Driscoll, right-handed pitcher, 3-1, 5.01 ERA. And then Sunday, Ryan Brigman, another right-handed. So they're matching Clemson, lefty, righty, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Again, I think on paper, Clemson should handle them. A lot of elevated numbers for a Binghamton team that played in that American East Conference with other teams like St. Peter's and things like that in New Jersey. So on paper, it looks like it should be a good weekend for Clemson, but you never know because baseball is baseball.
You never know. And before we get together again, hopefully next Thursday, if everybody's available, Clemson will schedule to take on Charlotte on Tuesday. Did you have a chance to do the very high level on Charlotte?
Very high level. Coach Robert Woodard, he was in his 4th year right now, hired after the 2019 season. They were 36-22 in 2022. They were ranked 23rd. They have 6 regulars returning offensively, and they got some boppers. They had some home runs. Another catcher or center fielder, Jake Cunningham, 304, 16 home runs a season ago. They returned 18 home runs. They returned 11 home runs. So they got some sticks, but not a lot on the mound. Really just 4 guys off of their rotation a year ago, meaningful rotation a year ago, but they did return their Friday starter. Clemson probably will not face him, but they beat South Carolina. They lost to UNC in 10 innings last year, and we know what UNC did to Clemson. And they lost to Louisville by a run. So this team can play and ranked, and they open this season this weekend against Ball State at home.
Well, and to be fair, some of those teams have started using their weekend guys on Tuesdays, at least for an inning or two, especially pre-conference schedule, right? So we'll see.
It did look like that, Marty. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It did look like that they do that, where they will throw their Friday night guy for an inning during the week, literally, and they'll open with him. So they'll open with him, especially, I guess, if he didn't pitch a lot of innings in his weekend start. And that their Friday start is Hale Sims. He was a 3-1, 4.66, 18 appearances last year and 10 starts. That's their Friday night guy.
All right. Appreciate it, Beef. Thanks for doing the research. I know I got to you late this afternoon to ask you about that. JP, closing thoughts before you hit the road headed to Clemson and your late night drive up the interstate.
My first thought is rain, stay away. Other than that, obviously on paper, this is a team that it seems like Clemson should handle, but like Beef touched on, man, this is baseball. You just don't ever know. I just want to see Clemson win 2 out of 3. And I want to see the pitchers be consistent, throwing strikes, finding that strike zone, not walking a bunch of guys, letting the defense work behind them. The little things, running the bases, the fundamentals. That's what I want to see this weekend. And obviously, I'll be happy if they win the series. You don't even have to sweep, just win the series.
Yeah, one thing they did under Andrew C., if I remember correctly, is they dominated series like this, and their strikeout to walk ratio was something like 8 or 9 to 1. But when they got into the ACC, obviously the competition's better. They didn't do as well, and I thought of that when you talked about throwing strikes consistently. So I'm going to have to see. I'd like to see it obviously this weekend, but I'm going to have to see it more than this weekend. But you hit on something that's a big deal, and I think Eric Backich talked about that too. Monty Lee did, of course, too, about the free 90s. But that's something that's always stuck in my head because things happen in baseball, as you said, and you can't just give up those 4 or 5 walks a game that the staff was doing last year, and then giving up hits after that really hurt them. Beef, final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just excited for tomorrow, excited for the weekend. You don't make snap judgments for the entire season based on this weekend. And then I think JP said it perfect. 2 out of 3 is a huge win for the weekend and hope for the sweep. So I'm excited. Can't wait. JP, be careful driving.
I might not even sleep tonight.
What a simple but great point, Beef, is overreactions are not wanted this weekend. We don't need hot takes on a 56-game schedule, the new coaching staff, and a whole bunch of new players after a game and a half. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for spending part of your Thursday with me. We're right at 28 minutes again. I think that's probably going to be our wheelhouse. You can find Casey's work. Speaking of which, Casey writes on rubbingtherock.com. He'll have a in-depth preview tomorrow with this video embedded into that preview, so you can get all of Casey's information on Binghamton Bearcats, and this video you can watch it again if you need to see how Jason and Casey feel about the rotation. Jason's work, of course, is on allclemsontigers.com. Great stuff over there. I read his work today. It's where I find my Eric Backich videos, by the way. All of Jason's work, baseball, football, whatever, is on allclemsontigers.com. For Casey Cregan and Jason Priester of allclemson.com, I'm Marty Coleman. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again next Thursday to talk about Clemson Tigers baseball. Thanks, guys.